I lost my corporate job a few months ago and needed a break. I took the gig managing a Seaside Boardwalk off-season. It seemed like a good way to make extra cash. The boardwalk felt empty and eerie in the winter, though. The closed stalls stood like forgotten memories. My cozy cottage creaked whenever a gust of wind blew through. It had an unsettling charm, but I thought I was just escaping city life. On my second night there, I heard footsteps outside my window. They moved back and forth on the boardwalk. At first, I thought it was another worker. I dismissed it and tried to sleep. I felt uneasy, but maybe it was just my imagination. The next night, the footsteps returned. I opened the window, feeling the cold wind whip through my hair. I looked down, but saw nothing. Just the darkened boardwalk stretching into the night. My heart raced. I convinced myself it was just the wind. Over the next week, it got worse. I heard those footsteps echoing off the boards, like someone pacing back and forth. Each time I peeked outside, but no one was there. Maybe I was losing my mind from the isolation. I started finding strange markings in the sand. They looked like circles and lines. My stomach twisted when I saw them. Then the noises came. They didn't sound like animals. I'd be sitting in the cottage, and I would hear faint thuds and whispers. I felt cold, even with a blanket wrapped around me. The silence of the night mocked me, filling my head with doubt. Was I imagining it all? One day, I decided to explore one of the empty stalls. It smelled of salt and rotting wood. I thought maybe I could distract myself. As I stepped inside, the floor creaked under my weight. A chill ran down my spine, like someone was standing right behind me. I turned, but it was just the empty boardwalk. I tried to rationalize everything. Maybe it was my anxiety. The footsteps might just be mice. But deep down, I believed something else was there, something that thrived in the emptiness. Then one night, the footsteps returned, louder than before. I felt them thudding against the boards, each step echoing. I stepped to the window, my heart pounding. "Hello?" I called out, my voice hardly above a whisper. Everything went silent. I squinted into the dark, but no movement. My breath quickened. I turned to leave the window. That's when I felt a chill, a presence behind me. A whisper filled the stillness. "Why are you here?" I froze. Before I could turn, I heard the footsteps again, but they were no longer just outside. Someone was inside. My breath caught in my throat. I felt dread wash over me. I didn't know what to do. I felt trapped in that moment, unsure of what would happen next. I spun around, heart racing, trying to make sense of the voice I had just heard. "Hello?" I managed to stammer, though my voice quivered. The air felt thicker than before, as if it was alive and pressing against me. Silence filled the room again, but the footsteps had stopped. I took a cautious step back from the window, nearly stumbling over an old rug. My head was swirling, thoughts racing. Should I check? Was it safe? I decided to grab a flashlight from the kitchen. It was a small comfort, but it felt better than facing the dark, empty space with nothing but my fear. As I flicked it on, the beam cut through the gloom, illuminating the cottage's corners, but casting long shadows that only deepened my anxiety. I moved carefully toward the door, listening intently. The sound of my heartbeat drowned out all else. I opened it slowly, the hinges creaking in protest. I stepped outside, the bracing cold biting into my skin as I shone the light across the boardwalk. Nothing. Just silence and darkness enveloped me. I took a deep breath and walked cautiously toward the first stall. The wood felt cold beneath my feet, and I could hear the soft lapping of the waves against the shore in the distance. I was completely on edge. As I reached the stall, I noticed more markings in the sand. My breath hitched as I knelt down, an unsettling realization creeping in. They were the same markings I had seen before, circles and lines, except this time they were more pronounced, more defined. They spiraled outward, creating a strange pattern. My fingers traced the outlines, and I felt a prickling at the back of my neck, like someone was watching. Then I heard it again. A low whisper carried on the wind. "Why are you here?" This time it sounded closer, clearer, a mere breath away. My body tensed as I whipped around, searching the darkness with my flashlight. The beam landed on an empty corner of the boardwalk. A figure flitted just out of reach of the light. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice betraying desperation. The figure stopped, and a moment stretched painfully. Then it darted away, blending back into the shadows beyond the light's reach. I felt a surge of adrenaline and dread. I wanted to chase after it, to know what I was dealing with, but my legs felt rooted to the ground. What if it was something worse than I imagined? What if I was just imagining all of it? I turned back to the markings, searching for clues, desperate for something tangible. That's when I saw it. A small object half buried in the sand near the edge of the pattern. A weathered old pendant shaped like an anchor. I picked it up, the cold metal sending a jolt through my fingers. There was no mistaking it. Something was very wrong here. As I held it up to the light, I felt an icy touch against my shoulder. I gasped and spun around, only to find an empty boardwalk behind me. But the whisper returned, louder this time. "Why are you here?" I froze, realizing that I wasn't alone. I gripped the pendant tightly, my instincts kicking in as I backed away slowly, heart pounding fiercely. Who had spoken? And what did they want from me? I stumbled back, still clutching the cold pendant. The whispers swirled around me, tugging at my sanity. "Why are you here?" It echoed again, sending chills down my spine. I had to know what was going on, but my instincts screamed at me to run. As I turned to head back to the cottage, I noticed that the quiet sounds of waves crashing weren't the only things I could hear. There were other noises, low, unsettling murmurs that felt almost alive. I hesitated, my flashlight beam trembling in the darkness. The boardwalk felt alive, as if the very wood I stood on had a heartbeat. I pointed my flashlight toward the far end, where it met the more densely wooded area behind the stalls. Was there something moving there, or was my mind playing tricks? I swallowed hard and took a few cautious steps. My foot fell onto something soft and uneven, and I nearly lost my balance. Looking down, I found another marking in the sand. This one was different, a series of lines that led into the forest, as if someone had dragged something heavy across the ground. My pulse quickened. What could have caused this? With my heart racing, I examined the lines more closely. They were fresh, meaning someone, or something, had been here not too long ago. Was it connected to the figure I had seen, or the whispers haunting me? Suddenly, a crashing sound erupted from the direction of the woods, and I jumped back, training my flashlight in the direction of the disturbance. My light beam flickered on something pale and skeletal, half hidden behind the underbrush. I scrambled back, my breath catching in my throat. Was it a bone? I was torn between turning to investigate and fleeing back to the safety of the cottage. Then I felt it again, a sudden gust of cold air brushing across my skin. This time, the whispers entwined with the wind, louder and filled with urgency. "You must leave." "Leave?" I murmured, though I was alone. The fear surged through me. How could I just turn and walk away? Curiosity, mixed with dread, chained me to the spot. I took a step forward despite the instinct to retreat. Why was whatever was out there so insistent? Why was it calling to me? Then I heard it again, a voice. This time, unmistakably human, coming from the direction of the creature's dragging markings. "Help me!" That was the last straw. Panic raising my heart rate, I stumbled back and turned to run, but a shadow moved at the edge of my light. There it was again, the figure. "Follow," it urged, voice distorted and echoing through the night. With my heart racing, I turned back toward the woods, fighting against fear. Driven by compulsion, I knew I had to find out what it wanted. But as I stepped forward, The pendant in my hand flared with a sudden warmth, pulling me closer to the darkness. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me again, this time following me. I spun to look, but the comfort of the flashlight's beam revealed nothing. Whatever was out there had plans for me. It was time to decide. Would I risk it all for answers, or was it time to escape whatever this nightmare had become? I fought against my trembling legs, stepping carefully toward the woods, guided by the pale glow of my flashlight. The shadows danced, and the whispers seemed to flit just beyond my reach, teasing me with secrets I was desperate to uncover. "Help me," the voice had cried, but whose voice? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn into a trap. As I ventured deeper, the dragging marks in the sand became clearer. They wove through the underbrush like a twisted path leading straight into the unknown. My heart raced in response to the cold night air. I wondered what might be waiting for me. Suddenly, the whispers changed. They turned from pleading to warning, a chorus echoing through the trees. "Turn back, they chimed, but my curiosity propelled me forward. With each step, the warmth of the pendant pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, as if it recognized the darkness and welcomed it. Then a sudden rustle from behind made me spin around. My flashlight caught a glimpse of something. No, someone, crouched just out of reach. I dropped the beam, heart pounding, hoping to catch the figure in my light. For a moment, there was nothing but darkness. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky. But all I got in return was silence. The air felt thicker now, pressing down on me like a weight. I took a step toward where I heard the noise. As I did, the pendant burned hotter in my palm, as if urging me to investigate further. My instincts screamed at me to run back to the safety of the cottage, but the need for answers pushed me into the shadows. Staring into the dark, I felt a terrible sense of being watched. I turned my flashlight toward the forest again. That's when I saw it. A fragment of what looked like a torn piece of clothing snagged on a branch. I rushed forward, my breath quickening. It was too dark to see clearly, but it had color, red. The kind of red that didn't belong in this wilderness. A sharp twig snapped behind me, and I whirled around. My light revealed a shape, but it was too late. Something massive moved at the edge of my vision, and a deep growl rumbled through the air. I stumbled back, the ground shifting beneath me, and I fell hard onto the damp soil. The pendant slipped from my grasp. It rolled away, its light flickering as it settled. Then everything went dark. The flashlight had dropped from my hands. Panic filled me. I scrambled to find the pendant, reaching into the cold night air, desperate to feel its warmth. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, melding with the growl, an unholy summons that clawed at my mind. You should not have come. The darkness felt alive now, thick and suffocating. I managed to grab the pendant and clutched it tight. A bright glow ignited in my palm, illuminating the twisted branches around me. But what I saw made my blood run cold. There, looming in the shadows, stood a figure, a tall silhouette with elongated limbs and eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. This time, I couldn't hear its words. All that came was a guttural sound that filled the air. I didn't know how much time I had left. I pushed myself up, heart racing, and turned to run. But as I darted into the trees, I realized I was not alone. The footsteps from before were back, echoing around me. I was being chased, and they weren't the only ones hunting tonight. I ran, my breath hitching in my throat. The pendant glowed fiercely in my hand, guiding me through the chaos of the trees, but every flicker of light felt like a spotlight on my panic. I could still hear the growl, a menacing reminder that I was not alone. Branches clawed at my skin as I pushed through the thickets, stumbling over roots that twisted like serpents in the dark. I fought against the urge to look back, afraid of what I might see. The footsteps trailed just behind, quick and rhythmic, closing in on me. I tried to focus on creating distance, desperate for my feet to carry me somewhere safe. Glancing down, my mind raced to remember the path. In the dim light, the fragmented memory of the woods twisted and turned in my head. I recalled the dragging marks, the fabric caught on the branch. It all felt like a terrible dream, and I was the one trapped inside it. Then, I spotted a break in the trees, a small clearing. My heart leaped with hope. I veered toward it, praying for an escape. But as I reached the edge, I froze. There, bathed in the faint glow from the pendant, lay a small, old cabin. The structure looked abandoned, its weathered wood sagging beneath years of neglect. It was just a building, but it offered a chance for safety. I darted toward the cabin, tugging the door open. A loud creak echoed in the silence, and I slipped inside. The moment I was through, I pushed the door closed as quietly as I could, holding my breath. I leaned against it, straining to hear outside, to catch any sign of my pursuers. The cabin was dark, save for the dim light from the pendant. Dust floated in the air, thick and stale. It carried the scent of moss and decay, but I didn't care. I needed to hide. I scanned the room, searching for somewhere to conceal myself. A tiny window caught my eye, but escape from that height didn't seem feasible. Then I noticed something glimmering in the corner. Metal. A rusted axe, weathered by time, leaned against the wall. I approached, my hands trembling as I picked it up. The weight felt reassuring, a tangible way to protect myself. Just as I gripped the handle, a loud bang echoed against the door. Someone was trying to get in. Panic surged anew. I was trapped, and the pounding reminded me that I wasn't safe yet. I quickly glanced around, searching for another means of defense. There was a narrow staircase at the back of the room leading up into darkness, a perfect potential hiding place. I made my way to the stairs, each creak louder than the last under my weight. As I ascended, I paused at the top, breathless and trembling. Shadows loomed around me, but I couldn't risk turning back to check. I could feel something watching me again. I moved deeper into the cramped attic space, where boxes lay stacked high. Just as I dropped down behind one, I heard the door crash open below. My heart thudded violently in my chest. Voices filled the cabin, two low, guttural tones mixing with whispers. "Find her," one voice barked. It sent cold chills down my spine. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying to remain unseen. And then I felt it. The pendant in my pocket began to pulse, a rhythmic beat against my thigh. The whispers, now almost enchanting, slipped through my mind, beckoning me closer to the edge of revelation. You must know. But know what? Who were these figures? And why were they looking for me? The questions clawed at my sanity as uncertainty loomed ever larger, suffocating the small space I occupied. Suddenly, a footstep echoed upstairs. They were coming for me. The floor creaked beneath me as the footsteps grew louder, sharp and deliberate. My heart raced even faster, the axe feeling heavier in my trembling grip. I wanted to scream, to make a sound, anything. But all I could do was clutch the rusted weapon tighter and hold my breath. The dark shape of the stairs loomed before me, taking on a life of its own. I peered through the crack between the boxes, praying the figure wouldn't spot me. The whispers continued, low and guttural. "She must be here somewhere," one voice said. It sent chills through me. Then the footsteps paused directly beneath the attic. All I could hear was the pounding of my pulse. I held my breath, straining to listen. A heavy silence filled the cabin. Time stretched, each second feeling like an eternity. For a moment, I dared hope they had left. But then, with a loud scrape, the figure took a step back. "Check the attic," the second voice commanded, low and menacing. My stomach dropped. They knew I was here. Adrenaline coursed through my veins. I had to do something. I scanned the room for an exit, but the only way down was through those very stairs they were now climbing. My eyes darted to the window again, the tiny opening still offering little hope of escape. The whispers transformed into laughter, mocking me as I curled into a smaller ball behind the boxes. Another step. The figure was climbing, each step heavy and ominous. I couldn't just wait to be caught. As I prepared to make a break for the window, I noticed the pendant's glow change. It pulsed in sync with the steps, stronger now, almost frantic. I stared at it, confused. What did it mean? The hatch creaked open, and a rush of night air poured in. I froze, muscles tensing as I saw a silhouette emerge. "She has to be here," the figure snarled. A tingle of recognition shot through me. I knew that voice. It was familiar. Then everything spiraled. A hand reached toward my hiding place, and instinct kicked in. I swung the axe wildly, a desperate stroke through the darkness. I felt the blade connect, a dull thud. The figure yelped, stumbling back. "Get her! Don't let her escape!" the second voice yelled, rushing up the stairs behind. This only added to the surge of terror that propelled me into action. I bolted for the window, adrenaline fueling my every move as I pushed it open with frantic intensity. With one leap, I was out. The ground rushed up to meet me. I hit the dirt hard, pain shooting through my shoulder. I landed awkwardly, but didn't stop. I rolled to my feet, ready to sprint. Then I saw something that froze me in place. My pendant was lying on the ground, glowing strangely. As I reached for it, a realization hit me. This wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a key, a link to whatever secret they were guarding. But my moment of clarity was shattered. A shadow loomed over me. A dark figure stepped into the light. The cold glint of something sharp flashed in its hand. "Nowhere to run," it sneered. I had just discovered the truth, but now the danger was closer than ever. I didn't even think. I dropped the pendant and dashed to the side, but a hand caught my shoulder. The grip was unyielding. Panic surged through me, and I swung my elbow backward, trying to break free. The sharp edge of a knife pricked my neck, and I froze. "Easy now," the figure said, voice low and steady. "We just want to talk." Talk? As if I hadn't been running for my life mere seconds ago. I could barely see the person's face, but I heard the echo of recognition. It was the voice from the attic, the one who had told the other to check for me. "What do you want?" I stammered, trying to keep my voice steady. The tension in the air felt like a thick fog. "I'm here to help," it replied, with a strange calmness. "But you need to listen to me. You're in over your head." I didn't believe it. No one hunted someone down just to help them. The person had to be lying. I tugged against the grip on my shoulder, searching for a way out. But that blade pressed closer, reminding me of the danger I was in. "The pendant," the figure said suddenly, gaze darting to the glowing piece on the ground. "You don't understand what it means." That's when I realized it wasn't just fear driving my heart rate. It was shock. I glanced at the pendant, now dull and unassuming in the dirt. It felt like it held the answers to everything, and yet it was also the reason for my current predicament. I took a breath. "What do you know about it?" The figure hesitated. "It's a key, but not a key to a door. It's a key to a power." "A power?" I repeated, trying to grasp what was happening. "What kind of power?" Before the figure could answer, shouts erupted from behind me. "Get her! She went this way!" It was the second voice from the attic, filled with urgency. "Listen to me," the figure said louder, turning me to face them. The knife shifted slightly, lowering just enough that I felt a flicker of hope. "You need to trust me, or we'll both be caught. You can't stay near here." Caught between fear of the stranger and the shouts closing in, I didn't know what to do. "Why should I trust you?" Suddenly, pain flared in my shoulder as a second figure burst into the clearing from behind the cabin. They lunged toward me. Without thinking, I pulled myself free and sprinted in the opposite direction, the cold night air biting at my skin. "Come back!" the figure called after me, desperation creeping into their voice. But I couldn't look back. I ran deeper into the woods, the sound of footsteps pounding behind me. The trees felt like they were closing in, branches snagging at my clothes. All I could think about was escape. Then I heard a different sound, a sharp intake of breath, and then silence. I dared to glance back, heart pounding. The first figure was gone. I was alone, except for the others who were getting closer. I stumbled over roots and rocks, my legs aching. That's when I thought of the pendant again, that strange energy. Something told me it wasn't finished with me yet. I needed answers, and I had to find a way to unlock whatever was hidden within the pendant before my pursuers caught up. I didn't know where I was going, but my choice was clear. I had to keep running, and figure this out along the way. The moon hung low, casting an eerie glow over the twisted trunks of the trees. Each breath felt heavy in my chest as I pressed onward, adrenaline pushing me. I couldn't shake the feeling that shadows were flanking me, moving just beyond my peripheral vision. With the noise of my pursuers growing fainter, I slowed my pace, trying to catch my breath. My heart raced, and I felt dizzy. It was hard to believe I had just sprinted through the woods, escaping danger. I had a moment of clarity, an urge to regroup. I needed to think. That's when I heard it. A faint rustling behind me. My stomach dropped. It felt like the woods were alive, filled with hidden threats. I glanced over my shoulder, expecting to see figures closing in, but the path was empty. Just the wind, whispering through the leaves. I looked down at my hands, feeling the weight of the pendant still clutched tightly in my grasp. Panic kicked in as I examined it closely. The dull, unassuming surface reflected the moonlight, and I could feel warmth radiating from it, pulsating as if it were alive. Without warning, the pendant slipped from my fingers and landed in the dirt. My heart sank as I scrambled to pick it up. In my haste, I realized this wasn't just a necklace. It felt like a lifeline. I grasped it tightly, as if holding it would keep me grounded amidst the chaos. Suddenly a flash of silver caught my eye, a glint of metal not far from me. I approached cautiously, tilting my head to see better. It was a small dagger, half buried in the ground, surrounded by scattered leaves. My instincts screamed at me to stay away, but curiosity tugged harder. I crouched down, fingers brushing the hilt. The dagger looked strangely familiar, its intricate designs echoing the patterns on the pendant. My pulse quickened. Was this part of the same power the figure had mentioned? Before I had a chance to ponder, more rustling sounds erupted from the woods. Isolation brought with it a desperate sense of urgency. I had to move. I snatched up the dagger, the cool metal a stark contrast to my hot skin, and darted into the brush. My mind raced with questions. Who were those people? What did the pendant really unlock? And why was the dagger here? Were they hunting me or protecting something? I felt the need to understand what was happening, but each answer seemed to lead to more uncertainty. Then I stumbled upon an opening in the trees. There, illuminated by moonlight, stood an old, crumbling structure. It looked like a forgotten shack, a place where time stood still. A wave of dread washed over me. Why did it draw me in? As I moved closer, the door creaked open, revealing darkness within. Before I could decide, a voice called out from behind me, icy and distinct. "You really shouldn't have come here." I froze. The second pursuer had found me. I was trapped between a looming threat and the unknown shelter ahead. With no other choice, I rushed into the shack, heart racing, hoping it wasn't the worst decision I ever made. Inside the shack, shadows swallowed the corners, and the air felt thick. I gripped the dagger tightly as I took small steps forward, trying to get my bearings. Something scratched against the wood, echoing my own fears. I needed to focus, to gather myself before I let panic take over. The door slammed shut behind me, jolting me. I turned quickly, dread pooling in my stomach. There was no way out now. My breath hitched as I glanced around, searching for a source of light. It felt wrong to be in here, away from the outside world. I needed to remember the voice that had warned me. As I moved deeper into the space, I could make out silhouettes of broken furniture and cobwebs draping from the ceiling. Something fell to the ground. My heart jumped. I whipped around, dagger raised, ready to defend myself. But it was just an old chair, toppled over. "Hello?" I called out, my voice quavering. The silence that followed was suffocating. I forced myself to concentrate. That voice, had it been a man or a woman? A shiver crawled up my back as I realized how easy it would be for someone to hide in this darkness. I had to find a way to protect myself, or at least gather more information. With the dagger still in hand, I moved towards a window in the far corner. The glass was grimy, but I could still see the outline of the forest outside, shadowy and silent. Memories of running through the underbrush flooded back to me, and I cursed myself for being trapped in what felt like a lurking trap. Then I heard it again, the sound of footsteps, light and tentative, as if someone was testing the ground. "Please, not like this," I whispered under my breath, pressing my back against the wall. In that moment, I was overwhelmed by a desperate urge to understand. I couldn't just hide. I needed to confront whatever lied in wait. With a deep breath, I moved towards the sound, dagger extended in front of me. Then, to my surprise, a figure emerged from the shadows, illuminated by a sliver of moonlight peeking through the window. My breath caught in my throat. It was a woman, her features sharp and striking. Her expression was a mix of anger and concern. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, eyes narrowing at me. "Who are you?" I shot back. My voice was steadier than I felt. She stepped closer, and I could see her hands were empty. It made me nervous and strangely hopeful. "You shouldn't have come for the pendant," she said, her tone sharp. "You have no idea what you've unleashed." A rush of emotions hit me. Fear, confusion, and a strange inkling of determination. I held my ground, gripping the dagger tighter. "What do you mean? Why are people after me?" "I'll explain, but we have to move. They're coming." Before I could respond or question her, she turned abruptly, heading toward a door at the back of the shack. My instincts screamed at me to follow, even though doubt nagged at my mind. But I was out of choices. As I stepped over the collapsed chair, the ground suddenly creaked ominously beneath my feet. I paused, freezing as an oppressive noise swelled outside. A chorus of footsteps approached, accompanied by frantic whispers. We were no longer alone. The woman glanced back at me, her expression pressed tight with urgency. "We need to hurry," she insisted, beckoning toward the door. I hesitated, gripping the dagger, weighing it in my palm. Could I trust her? "Who are you? What's happening?" I managed to whisper, anxiety flooding my veins. Just then, the footsteps grew louder, thudding against the wooden floor of the shack. It felt like they were right outside, sensing my fear. "We don't have time!" she snapped, her voice firm and filled with fear I could see etched on her sharp features. I impulsively dashed forward, slipping behind her as she flung open the door, revealing an overgrown path leading away from the shack. "Watch your step," she warned, darting out into the night. I followed closely, my heart hammering. We hurried down the path, the shadows of the trees swallowing us whole. "What are they?" I panted, trying to keep pace with her. "Why are they after me?" She glanced back, her eyes flickering with an emotion I couldn't decipher. "They're drawn to the pendant. It's not just a piece of jewelry. It's tied to something powerful, something they want to control, and you're in their way." "Me? Why me?" "They believe you can unlock its potential," she said, urgency clawing at her voice. "But for now, we need to escape." Around us, the woods whispered an ominous chorus, branches swaying as if they had minds of their own. I could almost hear echoes of the earlier whispers, but this time they twisted and turned, laced with a menacing edge. The thought turned my blood cold. "So they're not just trying to grab the pendant?" I asked, dread creeping in. "They want me too?" "Yes." She nodded sharply, eyes forward. "You don't understand what you've stumbled into." The urgency in her voice made me feel more lost than ever, my mind spiraling as I contemplated the full weight of her words. What possibility was hidden in that small object? I had thought it was just a curious trinket, but if it was connected to power, to everything unfolding around me. Ahead, we emerged into a small, clear space in the woods, a hollow where the moon hung low. The air felt charged, like electricity danced just out of reach. "Here," she nodded and dropped to the ground. She motioned for me to do the same, and together we sank to the forest floor, shadows enveloping us. I glanced around, hoping to catch a glimpse of our pursuers, but the underbrush was empty. My breath echoed in the stillness, and for the first time, a flicker of confidence sparkled in my gut. "What now?" I dared to ask. "The pendant," she said. "You need to hold it, let it guide you. But be prepared, they'll come." As soon as the pendant touched my palm, it warmed, pulsating in undulating waves. Images swam in my mind, swirling shadows, whispers, and flickers of light, all melding into serpentine patterns just beyond my comprehension. Then the sound of rustling displaced my thoughts. A shadow flickered between the trees, and I locked eyes with the figures I had fled. The whispers returned, wrapping around me like a shroud, an echoing refrain of urgency, of warning. "She must be found. She cannot escape." The weight of the dagger felt heavy against my palm, but all I could do was stare as they approached, their forms shifting in and out of focus. The details were indistinct, mere silhouettes in the moonlight. "Focus," she urged. "Trust the pendant." Heart pounding, I steeled myself against the overwhelming fear. I raised the pendant high, the warmth coursing through my veins growing more intense, illuminating the space as if pushing back the shadows. The whispers clashed and dimmed, merging with the seethe of darkness crawling ever closer. Suddenly, clarity broke through the murk. A voice rose from within, louder and engulfing. "You do not own this power," it bellowed. "You cannot control it, so release it." Feeling strange ripples of energy rise up, I hesitated. What did that mean? Before I could fully comprehend, the shadows lunged, and I clenched my teeth, holding on tight, not to the pendant, but to the dagger. "Now!" she shouted. "You have to command it. Show them you won't back down." With resolve, I stepped forward, gripping the dagger tightly. "You will not take this from me," I shouted into the encroaching dark. "This is mine." A moment of silence hung over us, as if reality itself were waiting. I raised the dagger and pendant together, channeling the energy swirling within me. The woods fell silent. Time felt suspended, holding its breath, then burst forth. A blinding light radiated, illuminating everything, shattering the dark. Figures stilled, frozen in their own malevolence, and for a brief flash I glimpsed their faces, twisted in rage and fear. But just then the light dimmed, and with it came the chaos once more. Shadows lunged forward and screams pierced through the air, a cacophony of sound swirling into a vortex of despair. "Run!" she screamed, throwing herself into the brush as I stumbled backward, almost losing my footing. The energy swelled again, and I hesitated, wondering if I had unleashed something uncontrollable. Darkness gathered once more, closing in on the clearing. I had done something, but at what cost? The whispers echoed. "Control, control, release." My mind reeled, filled with uncertainty. I turned toward the path out, where we had come from, and ran. The night twisted around me, and I could feel a flicker of fear and resolve igniting with every footfall. But in the very back of my mind, a fragment of doubt lingered. The weight of the pendant and dagger felt heavy in my hand, like a question yet unanswered, and there was still so much I didn't understand. As I sprinted away from the shadows, the woods whispered around me, and I couldn't help but wonder, had I really escaped, or was this just the beginning?